Game developers and publishers will try to convince you at every turn that when they include microtransactions, it's all for the player's sake. It's to give them choices and some other bullshit. But at the end of the day, they aren't really fooling anyone. It's clear that the only purpose predatory forms of microtransactions serve is to make them a shit ton of money at any cost. Companies like EA in particular earned handsomely from what they like to call live services, with Q3 fiscal year 2018 having yielded them the most revenue from microtransactions yet, despite the backlash that games like Battlefront 2 garnered throughout 2017. CEO Andrew Wilson still spouted that, quote, "Going forward, we believe that live services that include optional digital monetization, when done right, provide a very important element of choice that can extend and enhance the experience of our games. We are committed to continually working with our players to deliver the right experience in each of our games and live services." This is simply Wilson's underhanded way of saying microtransactions and loot boxes made us a shit ton of money, so we'll find a way to implement these exploitative features in a more subtle way. But it wasn't just EA who profited handsomely from the psychological exploitation of its players. Another major publisher who is neck deep into shady forms of recurrent monetization is Activision Blizzard. According to a recent report, in 2017, the company earned a whopping $4 billion in in-game purchases alone, making up the majority of the $7 billion total that they earned in net revenues. A significant bulk of those $4 billion in microtransactions comes from Candy Crush games such as Candy Crush Saga and Candy Crush Soda Saga, which were number 1 and 2 in terms of highest grossing games in iOS and Android. Blizzard was no slouch either, having generated $2 billion in microtransactions revenue from games like Overwatch, Hearthstone, and World of Warcraft. Even Destiny 2 apparently managed to pull its weight with its Curse of Osiris DLC, despite a rough launch quarter and waning player interest. Though I guess this shouldn't come as too big of a surprise when Bungie strong-armed players at every turn into shelling out additional cash by locking many of its new items behind the Eververse marketplace rather than spreading them across as rewards for engaging in the game's various activities. It was also noted that Call of Duty Black Ops 3 and its Zombie Chronicles DLC also performed very well, becoming the number 1 add-on offering of the year for PlayStation North America. This has all culminated in Activision Blizzard breaking records as far as quarterly and annual revenue from in-game purchases go, having even surpassed EA's own figures throughout the last quarter and throughout the last year. The short of it is that the business of predatory practices is booming, and despite the threat of government intervention looming on the horizon, there are no signs that game publishers intend to stop employing manipulative forms of monetization schemes. Honestly, look at these figures, then look me in the eyes and tell me with a straight face that microtransactions, loot boxes, season passes, deluxe editions, and all the other bullshit tactics are absolutely necessary for these game developers and publishers to stay afloat. Tell me with a straight face that earning $4 billion by preying on players' addictive tendencies is absolutely necessary to keep the lights on, because from where I'm sitting, these companies are just making money for the sake of making money at the expense of its players and communities. Look, I'm not against the idea of companies enjoying success and making money, but that's as long as they do so in an honest and moral way. If Activision Blizzard made $4 billion by giving players something they actually wanted, then I would say good on them, but instead, that money was earned by sullying the integrity of our games and by psychologically taking advantage of people, with zero regard for the repercussions that these kinds of mechanics can have on people's lives. They keep touting that these live services will enhance our experiences, but the only thing that's been enhanced so far is the volume and density capacity of their bank vaults. Name me one microtransactions or loot box scheme that has actually made a game better. Some will argue that loot boxes in games like Overwatch aren't that bad because they're just cosmetics and don't affect gameplay in any way. But aside from the fact that I fundamentally disagree with the notion that cosmetics don't in some way, shape, or form affect one's enjoyment of a game, or that a feature must have statistical outcomes to be considered having a gameplay effect, you can't deny that Overwatch would be a better experience if there wasn't an element of chance involved in earning these cosmetic rewards. The game would be much better off if players could just earn in-game currency through gameplay and then pick out what they wanted, or even better if they could just unlock cosmetics the more they play certain characters. That's real player choice. So I don't care if Overwatch's loot boxes aren't as bad as what EA tried to pull with Battlefront 2. The fact still remains that the game is worse off because of their inclusion. And as long as revenue from these types of exploitative and game-defiling features continue to generate them more and more money year by year, these companies aren't going to stop, which is why it is my belief that there is no other way but to support the government stepping in at this point. What other choice is there when the gaming industry isn't willing to be responsible for its own actions because they're too busy counting their dollars? And I can guarantee you that these companies will be fine without generating billions of dollars off of milking players like cattle. Sure, these executives may not be able to afford buying a yacht for their private pool, but they'll be able to keep the lights on, they'll still be able to make games, and maybe they can start thinking about making money on the merit of selling good games that players want. Monster Hunter World certainly seemed to have no trouble doing so, shipping 6 million units worldwide in the 2 weeks that it's been out. These are just one man's thoughts and opinions anyway. I'd love to hear what your take is on all of this in the comments below. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy my content, consider supporting me on Patreon. It is completely optional, but donating even as little as $1 a month will go a long way in helping this channel grow. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out!